Okay, so there I go. And now I got it. So allow me to introduce Dr. Laban Chesang, your course lecturer for this particular course, and he will be taking you through this. And allow me to share his profile a little so that you can understand who he is. I'll share it from our Daystar sharing so that it is live to you. I thought I had already gotten the link, so allow me just to get the link so that I have it live here, so that it doesn't give me problems while sharing. So Dr. Chesang is the current Dean of School of Business and Economics. He's the current Dean of Business and Economics, Desa University. Dr. Chesang has a PhD in Economics. He holds a BA Economics from Egerton University and MA Economics, University of Botswana, PhD in Economics from University of Pretoria, South Africa. Currently, he's the Dean, not acting, he's actually the Dean, School of Business, and has been the immediate head of department of economics. Of course, he does many things. He's also in the university, in the Daystar vice chancellor's rapid team that works, that makes the vice chancellor's work easy through research and other things. But more important is just to know that he's very well known in the terms of economics and is a senior lecturer at level at Desa University. He's also involved in many collaborative research, including School of Monetary Studies, Research Center, World Bank, microeconomics, amongst others. And of course, as we say that you can see, he has done quite a lot of studies here and there. He's also a consultant matters around economics in the country. He also is a peer reviewer of South Africa Journal of Economics, which most of you would like to publish in for those who are coming from a business perspective. So as he comes in, he's just coming in as part of our responsibility to be able to teach you. He'll be taking you this course for statistics. I have known him as a friend, and he's a great man, and literally sometimes quiet, but I know he can laugh, he can smile, he can do many things. But it's not as, me who can talk fast and move like that, no. But basically, he understands this class as a class that is having people from different fields, from law to education to business to economics, so many things. So this is a very diverse class, Mwalimu. And as it takes statistics, statistics doesn't really think about any one group of people. It applies to all of us. And just to say that you will be, Mwalimu, you're going to encounter a very good class of about 50 students who are usually very active. They are usually very engaging. The intellectual capacity is very high, so I expect them to really not be able to feel anything about statistics, because statistics is just simply numbers, so that you can understand your research very well and other things. So we have had a very good engagement with them last semester, and we're so happy to have them this semester. So I want to officially welcome you to the community of these students of Master's in Education Leadership and Policy Studies, and they can join me, welcome you using their captions there, whatever you want, you say Karibu, or you can type there to welcome Mwalimu. And I hope you'll enjoy and have a good time with them as you take up this course. So students, help me welcome Dr. Laban Chesang, whether in a text or on a chat or on your emojis that you want to use. Thank you so much for allowing me to introduce you. And as I said, I'm recording this for most of them who may miss or who drop off during the lecture. We share with them. And we also don't have a problem with the public going through, because the public will always go through, but they don't get the degree unless they come to class. Thank you so much, my colleague, for taking up this class, and welcome. Karibu Yevene.
Thank you very much, Dr. Carol Ayuya. I appreciate so much for the introduction. You've done a lot of the work that I should have done in the beginning. And indeed, with that elaborate introduction, what say I? I'm privileged to join this team, and in particular, this community of experts that have congregated today. You've been here last semester. We are here again, and we shall keep going. This is just one of those that I have joined in the ship to help you and also help us to share knowledge, experiences, your expertise, and matters statistics with regards to your different areas of specialization. So I appreciate for the opportunity. I anticipate a good interactive session beginning today. For sure, we are meeting for the first time with most of us, actually all of us, if I may say so. So mine is to welcome everyone to experience statistics in different ways. I'm yet exactly to know the composition of the team, but we will do it in some other way. But already I've been mentioned that this is a mixed group. In other words, we have people from the legal profession, we have teachers in here, we have business, men and women, and everyone. The good thing is that the common denominator in all that is that they always talk about numbers in one way or the other. So it is my joy that I will extend my blessing and knowledge to you. And indeed, if we cover things that you've already gone through in the course of your studies, then it is also important because you're also emphasizing them. We are also reminding us that it is still important in part of, as you even do your careers, as you also apply some of them. So it gives me a lot of encouragement that the team is very receptive, welcoming right here. You've just joined on time, though a few of us joined in a few. Mine is to encourage us that we flow in together, where we need to go back a little bit and then let us know so that we don't leave anyone behind. I appreciate for the warm welcome from everybody, implying that we are ready to learn, we are ready to engage, we are ready to talk about numbers and the rest. So I'm a product of many places, as you've seen, but I've been in data for a very long time, implying that many of the students and many of the people that you see in the industry, in one way or the other, must have also passed through my hands, especially those that have been through data. And I believe that this is also one of those opportunities for us to network, build relations, relationships here and there, and perhaps we grow together as we proceed. Yeah, so thank you. I think it is important that yes, I made those opening remarks. Statistics is statistics. It doesn't have another word. And whether you are in whichever field, it is all about that. It is all about that. And so I have done numbers from the time I learned to say one up to today. And that is exactly what it is. So my training in economics has also grounded me quite enough and quite well in talking about these statistics and many others. So don't be scared with these things, because even at home, I'm sure there's some counting that takes place. There's some income you always look forward to having. There is a number of acres of land that you perhaps visit at some point in time. You have some people that you do pay to or support. So you have numbers around you. And so statistics should not be an elephant in the room. All we just do is put them together. All those things you aggregate, and then we talk about what comes out of it all. So it is statistics. It is going to be fun. Please enjoy, come with open hearts. It is not going to be very technical, very mathematical. Some of you are already thinking, but it is going to be that. Yeah, so karibuni sana, and we wish you well as we journey together. Yeah, so I may not know exactly your levels of exposure in terms of statistics, but as long as you are doing research in one way or the other, statistics will be part of it. So expect a lot of the things you're expecting. Yeah, including if you are saying computations, any math, any numbers. But to me, statistics is what you make out of that number that you see out there. What statistics does is to just give you some techniques to combine variables here and there, come up with something that you can see indeed that it makes sense, and we can interpret and we can make use of it for decisions and the rest. So welcome aboard. The flight is starting, and so we will be taking different turns as the stopovers here and there, back and forth. At times we will reflect back, we come back again. So it is part of the journey. Regard this as one of those units that will complement better your research methods, especially as you develop your methodologies, and the rest. So link the methods, link the numbers we are going to talk about today to make sense out of the methods that you're going to apply in your research. And I'm sure you'll have a very good, perhaps research article. Above all, I would like us to go with knowledge. I want to also emphasize that we all have something to contribute along the way. So even if we are covering a certain topic, I am not ignorant of the fact that some of us are already aware of certain principles and concepts and around there, but we will work together to create that kind of a flow. So think as we proceed, because I'm going to just maybe share a word of encouragement even as we begin. Then after that, we can see what to do. So anyone with a comment on my introductory remarks as we do a small prayer and devotion shortly? Just want to give 2 people to say something. Ruth, your microphone is up already.
How are you, Doc?
Karibu, fine, thanks.
I'm just here wondering, I teach English and literature and I fear math, so I'm hoping the statistics will not scare me away. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Yeah, thank you for stating your position in advance. Yeah, so I think I see 3 more hands. I have already had English and literature. Allow me to just have. Okay, let me get 1 person and then we do the prayer and then we continue with the other 2. This is Dolina.
Daktari.
Good afternoon to you.
I teach Kiswahili. So my question is, am I supposed to buy rulers and a geometrical set and a calculator?
Okay. Let me answer that one, and then we take the break to pray, and then we'll ask Chris and Tasleen to make their submissions. My expectation here is, of course, the geometrical set is a no. At this stage, I would expect perhaps your pen, your paper at some point. Your computer, here and there, I would expect at times we'll go to the computers a little bit, but we will use a common denominator, which is, I think, Excel. Yeah, Excel spreadsheet to make life simple, but it will only come after we've looked at the pen and paper. So in my early observations, we need you to be composed, be in a place where you can write 1 here and there, put things together. And then after that, at some point, we will extend that to some basic application in, for now, we will use Excel. Then if time allows, we will explore alternative software. I'm still working around the SPSS. If that comes through at some point, you consider. So I would expect the class to be a mix of everything. I'm already laughing at the charts already. We have X and the Y's and the and the Z's that we are looking for, but we will combine them, but in a manner in which the numbers that you get, we are able to talk about them. Because at the end of it all, you can generate those numbers, but if it doesn't speak to you, then it is useless. So we'll have a blend so that everyone can be brought on board. Yeah, so let's before we pray, and then I can give the other call, your participants, just want to encourage you on one or two words of wisdom. Let's just go to one of the very popular verses in the Bible. I don't know, is my screen visible?
Yes.
Great.
Yes, but we can't see everything.
Can't see everything. Let me just sorry. Chris,
Yes, Dr.
allow me to ask Chris. Okay. Proverbs 2:1-6. Allow me, because I see your hand is up, so that we also utilize your expertise in reading. We just have some words of wisdom and encouragement from Proverbs 2:1-6. You can read for us.
Your screen is not visible. Actually, it's visible, but I don't know. Maybe
It's not visible. Allow me to just let me just a moment. Let me stop sharing, and then I can make it better.
maybe you can say Proverbs, which verse?
2:1-6. Proverbs 2:1-6.
Maybe I can read from my Bible.
Have you got it?
If
Have you got it?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, the New International Version says Proverbs 2:1-6. My son, if you accept my words and store up my commands within you, turning your ear to wisdom and applying your heart to understanding, and if you call out for insight and cry aloud for understanding, and for it for as for hidden treasure, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. Verse 6 says, for the Lord gives wisdom, and from his mouth come knowledge and understanding. The word of the Lord.
Thank you very much. Yeah, the words of King Solomon about wisdom, and I think the key message there is that as we are in this world, as we are together, we are congregating, we are in different fora, we have many things around us. Remember that the Lord gives wisdom, that is what it is, and from his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. And the reflection I am giving you today is the fact that, well, this is statistics. We have a group that we are mixed up. At times, as instructors of statistics, we are aware of the perceptions about statistics, anything that deals with numbers. Already we've had a few opening remarks from a few of us. But the thing is, these things require us to have some bit of, with our own little knowledge, but with reference to God, praying for wisdom in whichever step, in whichever small thing that we shall be doing together. I believe we shall put the pieces together, even as we start this particular meeting. It reminds us that we need to turn our ears to God in every way, reflective of the fact that these things that we are dealing with, especially from today going forth, it's men that made them. It's them that have made them for us to improve our lives, to grow us in one way or the other in different ways. But always remember one thing: we must go back to the source of knowledge. That is why I was saying that we might come with our own fears. We have statistics in here, we have research over there, we have all these things, academic pursuits that we are seeking. But in the end, the knowledge and wisdom is what we are seeking. Noting that if men understand statistics, why not you? It is just you to make it known to God that this one is one that is going to change it, even though you've never liked it before in your previous experiences academically. This time around, it will make sense. I know we are now maturer. We understand life better. There are those things that used to be Greek long time ago. Now they are English and Kiswahili and the rest. So that should encourage you that even as we begin, you open up your minds for reception. Don't just for receipt of everything we are going to do. Don't block your mind. Don't just be in that mind that is closed and not ready to see things differently. Maybe this is a time that statistics will make sense to you. And for all these years, it's been Greek or so. But always remember that everything must come from God, because if we make our wishes known to Him, even in times that we are not seeing the answers, we are not seeing how things connect, then eventually God will answer your prayer. And as we pursue these academic pursuits, to improve ourselves, to make things better, always I wish you well, or not that we make reference to God in every situation. So that is just to encourage you. I'm not saying that this is not only for statistics, but you should all know that the program, the way it's packaged in such a manner that it's interconnected. And so whatever you learn in your education leadership courses, whatever you learn in research, blend it with statistics, you'll become a very good resource person to talk about numbers, to talk about things confidently. Yeah, so I'm encouraging us that the journey is just beginning. We have many things in here to learn, but with God being in our midst, we shall make it. We shall make it. Good. Now, thank you. So let's. I want we pray so that we start at the right footing. I pray for you. Also pray for ourselves, even as we interact together, so that as we begin talking about the numbers and things like that, then they begin to make sense. All I will expect at the end of it all is your prayer to God. Be diligent, be humble, the key thing is be patient. That is a key thing. For statistics, you don't have, you need a lot of patience, because certain things might require that you might redo 2-3 times before you get it right. And so even as you seek God's wisdom, pray that patience also to be part of it, so that the numbers that we shall be talking about here, and things we shall be discussing, shall make sense to you. And you will even see the areas of application of these things in your different specializations. So allow me to pray, then we begin the other phase of the discussion. So we are praying. Our Father in heaven, we are grateful for yet another opportunity you've given us to meet with this new group. We thank you for the interaction that has already taken place from the time we began up to this moment. We want to thank you even for every particular item that has been placed on the agenda for discussion in this class. We're praying for special wisdom from above, as you've reminded us in Proverbs 2:1-6, that in everything we shall always be reminded to ask from you. Heavenly Father, give wisdom to each one of us in areas we are seeking. Always remind us to remember to pray for the same, because we only receive that which we pray and ask for. We bring forth each and every student and the participant that is part of this team, that we shall work together, that there shall be understanding, there shall be flow of knowledge, we shall share our experiences in whichever format, and it shall be received in here, and it shall make sense to us even as we discuss numbers. I want to pray that as we begin this particular semester, not just for this course, the students shall see the end at the end of it all, and things shall put in together, shall flow in together, and they shall begin to make sense. As we talk about statistics, may statistics make sense to the students that are part of this unit, that they can even see the sense in the same areas of application in their lives, and even for the other courses. Be with us, Heavenly Father, as we engage together. Give us that freedom of expression. Let the class be free. They shall discuss freely. We shall engage. We shall look at each and every detail. And at the end of it all, we have something to learn. Be with us as we engage together for this evening session and the other upcoming sessions. For we pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Asante sana. So I think we have done preliminaries. We have prayed. We want to remove doubt that statistics is not going to be difficult this time around. It is going to be working for us. We will make sense out of it. There will be nothing that is difficult, because as I've already said from the beginning, statistics is the common denominator for all of us, including the teachers of Kiswahili. Yeah, that's why kuna nambari. So there's always something about statistics. The only difference in here is that, as I said earlier, we are putting many things, variables into the fore, and then we see what can come out of it, and that's what we want to look at in this course. So no one should instill fear in you. You are capable. You will be strong. I'm not saying that these are difficult course. It is one of the easiest. All you need is a positive mind to learn. And above all, if you can relate the things you are doing in your areas of specialty, then it can only make sense at that level. So if you're in the legal profession, you know what statistics does to you. Look at the number of cases that are being dispensed in the courts. You look at the characteristics of individuals. Can you make sense out of the court cases versus the characteristics of the individuals, the nature of the crimes, all these things? Can you put them together? Come up with some variables that one can make sense out of it all. So we'll be talking about many different study scenarios, but of course, having gotten a feel of who we are, especially in terms of the composition of this of the team, and then from there we will make sense out of it. There were two hands up that went up before we prayed. One was Chris. Chris, please make a remark. Are you there, Chris? Looks like no. There was another hand which was put down after prayer. Any other comment? Oh,
Hello,
Lawrence. Yeah. Oh, this is let's go with Florence.
We can have Florence.
Yes, and then
All right. Good evening, Mwalimu, and thank you very much. I'm one of the people looking forward to this particular unit, especially because from where I'm seated, we just had a conversation this morning in the office talking about gender data for development, being deliberate when we're doing research to find the women in the data. And so from what I do, it needs a lot of analysis. And I know within this course, when I saw the video that you had posted, we're going to learn fundamental principles of statistics, statistical concepts, statistical software for data analysis. So I'm looking forward to that so that I have a better understanding, better analysis of the data that we receive, analyzing different data sets, and making a case for development in different quarters. So thank you very much. The Bible says I should not live in fear, and therefore I am not about to live in fear. I'm confident I will learn and grow. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Wow, encouraging. Thank you very much, Florence. We good to learn that. There was Tasleen. I think those are good comments. Tasleen.
Yes. Good evening, Daktari and everyone.
Yes.
Mine was just a question, maybe. I wanted to ask if this statistical unit is the same one that we did in our undergrad, and maybe how different is it? And I also wanted to ask if you can maybe add on the other statistical packages like R and Python, so that we are not just learning the things that we've learned before, but we are also building onto something. And just to add, I also want to tell the math teachers in this class to stop selling us fear. We are not scared of math. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so okay, it was only, I'll make a comment in a moment. Chris will do their last observation, then we begin. You.
Dexterity, Polly, the network got me off and got lost. Now, I think after listening to Florence, I am encouraged and I have hope and I have the zeal and energy to move forward with this unit.
Right.
I was listening at my colleagues when they said I teach English, and then I'm wondering I mostly in spirit, so I don't teach anything, and so but all the same we are prepared, and by the grace of God, this is not going to be the way it was for me in undergrad, and of course, with the grace of God and with the support from my colleagues and from yourself, we're hoping that this is going to be the best unit. In fact, even the fear may not be there. We are going to pass this. Thank you.
Okay.
And for the math teachers in the class, hope you are going to help us to understand more. Thank you. That's it.
Okay, fine. So Sawa, I think appreciative. Yeah, I think Tasleen has some questions to answer as well, because people are asking whether Python is it a snake, or that is what people know, the common denominator. Yeah, but it is okay. Yeah, so I think let me not promise that we'll go to Python, Tasleen. And R and Python, those are advanced programming languages for analysis. That's why in the first point, I would have wished to understand the composition of the team. At some point, perhaps I will also do some data collection from this group so that exactly I can determine where we fall in. If it means adjusting a little bit, that will, so that everyone can have something at the end of it all. What my main approach will be, much as we will look at some of the fundamental principles and ideas about statistics. You see, dealing with different types of data sets requires some skill. We would want to manage the process in such a manner that those who are on the higher scale of the learning process can also can be brought next to where everyone is, and at the end of it all, so those who are not yet there can also be brought in the middle ground. There are a few things as we, like I said, as we grow, as we go in together. I will adjust, especially but noting that we shall also remain in line with what has been proposed in the curriculum. Yeah, so that if it means, for example, hypothesis testing, okay, well, is everyone at in the same page when it comes to formulation, to testing, to interpretation? But it's always good to have a structured discussion, even as we move in together. Much as we'll have different experiences from Python to R to Stata, from SPSS to Excel, the reason why we have a class is to have a common ground for us to communicate. And then from there, we can now extend to, we can take it up from there. We can take it up from there. So I would also wish to know the math teachers in the floor at some point. Maybe perhaps in the chat, you could, just for me to have a feel, if you could just put in your first name and your field for now, so that as I come in next week, I can have a proper feel and where I'm going to take the class in terms of examples, draw case studies from. So my request at this stage, we could just, if it's Chris, say Chris, teacher of statistics, like that, so that I know where we fall in as a group. Yeah, so Josephine has already led. Yeah, so we can, let me have that information so that I can use it as I look at how we're going to conduct the class going forward. So allow me, I had actually planned that we, at F6, we settle in. So because it's only Juliet and which is up, she will have 30 seconds and then we begin.
I thought I lowered my hand, Mwalimu, but I just wanted to say that in undergraduate, sorry for that. I wanted to say that in undergraduate, I really switched off in this unit of statistics. When the lecturer would just come in but thank you for the encouragement that you started with. I am positive. Everything is possible. Thank you.
Thank you. If men invented everything and we're using those things productively, then what makes us not make use of this as well? So thank you. Fine. So you receive, I'll share the outline and the other things, the other details in the course of, after the lecture, I'll post them on the e-learning. But I'm sure from the e-learning, you are able to log in and you exactly see the nature of the things we are going to cover together. It won't be different from what is projected in the course curriculum. But allow me just to share my screen so that you can just have an idea of where we're heading to this unit. Then after that, we'll find our place. Find our place exactly. Just right in here. So Taslin, you can pull down your hand. At some point, we will encourage you also to tell us the experience with R and Python due to popular demand. All right, great. Yes, once you have the outline, you can pick my contacts and everything else, and then we can engage together outside or even within the classroom setup. So this is exactly drawn from the curriculum in terms of what we expect from this course. You know, statistics is statistics in whichever field you are in, whether you are in education, whether you are in different fields. Statistics remain an integral part of analysis. What matters is basically the application and the extent to which that particular knowledge is applicable. You will notice one thing that our course, basically, if you look at the content as I project, it will have three main areas. It will have three broad areas, just like we have in any other standard curriculum for statistics. First of all, we'll have things that we talk about as descriptives. We'll go to inferential, and then we go to statistical techniques. So that will be the nature of the approach that the course will take. Where we need to have your pen, paper, we will do that because you need the theory, you need to understand how these are computed, how things are done, so that as you go to software, it is easy to just punch in steps and things that have been inbuilt behind the scenes in the software, but do we really understand what it is that is happening behind the scenes? And that is why for knowledge in statistics, that theory is still very fundamental. It is still very critical. If you talk to teachers, that is the only way the knowledge will be transferred to the upcoming generation. So let's not be selfish and say, well, CC SPSS and we are done. No, everything must be systematic. We have the bit of knowledge, then from there we can engage. So this is the description, the purpose of the course. At the end of it all, we will assess ourselves having gone through the course on those 4 ELOs, expected learning outcomes, understanding and even application of descriptive and inferential statistics in various types of data. That is it's a loaded objective, but it has a lot of things in here. Making sense of data which you have organized for the purpose of informing policy in whichever field you can apply in law or whichever. We have also articulation of various techniques that we apply for hypothesis testing, because that's the nature of data. You collect data, but then there's so much that you can pick from any data set. As long as you have and as you understand the structure of the data, then it is possible for you to develop various techniques that you can generate hypotheses and talk about it, interpret, and then give a proper policy advice. As we flow in the statistical software, much as we have a variety of statistical softwares at our disposal, remember one thing, the software is just an enabler. But what is important is, can you make sense out of that output that you get from SPSS or whatever? But I've always say that this Excel that we have in our computers, this Excel software is a package, is really powerful. It has many things. We often ignore it, yet it is still very powerful, even in generating some of those outputs. And so it comes like that. Now, much as that is the description as you've seen in the outline, today or this particular session, I've tried to break this into sections so that we have different areas of coverage. I'll put this into weeks for purposes of just having a structured discussion all going through. So week 1 and 2, this will be very easy. I think for this lesson today, if we can even manage it, we can actually run through this together. So today we might not need the pen and paper. So for those of us who have already prepared the pen and paper, you can just, and I know, yes, we'll just write a few things. What I meant by that is times, if we will not do a lot of the numbers today in terms of writing and everything, I'm going to pitch the discussion, or rather the discussion that are going to take place throughout the course in terms of understanding where we are in statistics, the place of statistics in our various fields. And then importantly, in the second part of week 2, which is about data, that I think that is where I need to put more meat on, so that you understand the data that you have before you even talk about SPSS or otherwise. So the first 2 topics is basically testing the waters, understanding concepts, and putting together things, making sense out of some of these things. And then from there, we'll now go to the 3 areas. The first part of our statistics is the first branch of statistics known as descriptive statistics. We have so descriptive stats. So basically, we look at various ways in which we can describe data, but note that the data description here will be varied. It will depend on the data that you do have. Visualization is one of the ways. It's a very powerful way of doing things. So for those of us in the qualitative research sphere, perhaps this will be one of the powerful ways of doing those representations. Understanding of the best way or the most efficient way of presenting the data visually is important. The second level of descriptive is your measures of location, or rather central location, if you want to call it like that, together with the dispersion or rather spread. Then we'll talk about moments. Moments, it means I'm saying first moment, second moment, and the rest. So this will be, these areas will flow in the descriptives. That is where it is. Much as they may be as simply stated as weighted mean, whatever, but then where do we find the relevance and application of this? A lot of the time when people do research and they report averages, and they leave it there, it gives a lot of question marks. There's still more questions one can answer. So if the average mark is this, is 50 out of 100. If the average income earned by the households in Nairobi is $3,000 per month. Okay, if the common number, the mode, if it is 5,000, I mean, it is a useful information, but you can do better. If that information that you already have with the central location is augmented or rather boosted with the higher versions of measures, which are the measures of dispersion. Can we now go into and zero in into the various households, so that when we say that much as the income on average is $3,000, we now pay attention to the various disparities that we can observe in the data set. And so one of the methods that, one of the measures that is often ignored because of the difficulty in interpretation and meaning, much as is simply stated as that, it has a lot of significance in statistics. That is standard deviation or variance, because it now tells you, even though the average is $3,000, well, there seems to be some significant variation across households in terms of income. So what can tell you, what variable or what measure can give you that kind of conclusion? Variance, standard deviation. So we will talk about that. If time allows, from the data, we will pick even from the class or whichever, we can run through a few things and understand ourselves even as a group. Depending on I intend to perhaps do a questionnaire, see what data I can generate from the members of the class, and then we can run through to understand ourselves. There is something referred to as moments in statistics. We have what we call first moment, second moment, third moments, and the rest. So we'll explore this in line with what will come in 7. There's something called distribution. When they say distribution, it is a matter of combining these moments. Just to give it more meaning, if you do a simple average, when you do an average of anything, that is what you call the first moment. If you do the standard deviation or variance, that gives you the second moment. When you now proceed to a higher level, you look at a combination of skewness and kurtosis. Those are now third moments. So skewness and kurtosis, which now becomes a third moment. And so this will help you to understand what is called a distribution. So it is structured in such a manner that once you've understood the distribution, then hypothesis testing can come in. So the flow is in such a manner that you move in from the basic descriptives to building towards hypothesis testing. So in statistics, of course, we talk about the normal curve, for example, which you all know how it looks like, the normal curve, or rather the normal distribution. And perhaps we will give more emphasis on it on that level. But we will not be drawing those graphs, even if we compute 1 or 2 statistics there, but we will work with actual data and then assess the extent to which we have some distribution of some sort, because this will guide you on the type of hypothesis test to conduct. So there is some connection between what we call distribution with hypothesis testing, which is on week 9. Okay, so in week 8, as you see confidence interval there, the key to me there is understanding this animal called the probability value, because that is the essence of conducting hypothesis. So I'll pitch my discussion around understanding why the probability value becomes very important in the process of developing an hypothesis testing procedure. So that will be the next item on the agenda. Then in the 9th session or week, we will conduct proper hypothesis. Please note that here, as we develop the theory, I'll also give actual data. We will look at scenarios. We'll build various scenarios, so that even for those of us who are not in quantitative per se, they can understand that if they have a small component of quantitative data, for example, you have data for your class performance for your 100 students, you can actually develop some statistical procedure to determine whether there is a significant difference in performance between male and female students. So because you can collect data and qualitative data about the gender, the income status, and the rest, but as long as you have a small bit of data which is quantitative, you can combine the two and talk about a way in which that data can make more sense to you as a person doing research. So, so beyond just doing graphs, showing averages and the rest, I'll give you techniques of how to use that data to develop hypothesis, and then go about to even give more interpretation to the nature of the data you have. So this is hypothesis testing. It is a process that we're building from 7 going to 9. Yes, so the last part I should have mentioned, first of all, I said the first part is descriptives. The second part is called inferential statistics, which ends at hypothesis testing. Now from here, these are now methods. So there we have statistical methods of analysis. And in particular, we have, I've singled out 2 for now. But if time allows, I can look for ways in which we can enrich the second part, so that we can also accommodate the many of us who are inclined towards qualitative data. So in session 10, we have correlation, because variables relate with one another. We'll understand how we can do correlation, whether you have qualitative or quantitative data. I'll demonstrate both cases with actual data. Then we can use that data to assess whether there's some cause and effect relationships, which is what is called the regression analysis. So in a nutshell, my discussion will center around those three areas: the descriptives, the inferential, and then specific techniques that will make our lives easier when it comes to understanding relationship among variables. So think about that as we journey together. So allow me to receive any comments. There will be books in here, ebooks that are available. Think most of them are in the library. You can always get the links, and you have specific chapters for the same. Before I give one or two people to make the two comments, allow me to ask you at some point if you can get hold of this book. For those of us who are want to just go slow a little bit as we begin, that's the title of the book, and it says everything. That this is the first chapter. You can read through it. That is a gentle introduction to statistics. It's in our library. It's accessible, so you can look at the first chapter to just set the pace for us as we look through what to expect. Good. So let me then give, I don't know whose hand is up. Okay, Silvanus.
Yes, Dr. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening to you.
I've looked at the course outline and it looks good. My question is on the methods of assessment. How are you going to do the assessment? What do we expect at the end, the cards and all that?
Okay. Any other? Any other question from the floor? Right. That's fine. Yes, Sir Othello.
Hi,
Othello.
Dr.
Oh, great. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Yes.
I think that's a good question. Brother Silvanus is asking. I was just about to add that question also.
Yes.
And the thing is, when I did statistics, when I did many years ago, I just love data because it is a liberal arts university. That's why we are doing statistics. So
yes.
You have to do a little bit of everything. If you come from this side and you don't know this one, then I don't know which this side you're coming from. So I did statistics many years ago in undergraduate, and this guy, the Jewish guy who was teaching was a Jewish American guy. He will give you a small paper, less than half of a full scalp, and you give you assignment. So you look at the assignment and say, oh, these are just small assignments. And then you play around with it. We were boarding here in this campus at that time. And
Yes.
so in the evening, after supper, you go and settle down to do the assignment. You find it's a lot of work, and you are taking to maybe 4 a.m.
Yes.
So I hope it's not going to be like that here.
Okay. All right. thank you. Your question and your comment is tied with our Silvanus question. And I think I get where you're heading to. Allow me to just indicate that we shall be doing a few tasks during the class session. Yeah. So, for instance, we could have a discussion question posted there on some areas. So you could simply log in, put in your comments in here, put in your answers. It could be an assigned question in the course of the class. So allow me, I'll use that as one of the things that we shall be doing so that you are dispensing them as we go along. One question or two questions as part of your continuous activities in class. That is one approach. There will be also some assigned tasks, small tasks here and there. Work on this, interpret this for us, give you some small data, compute this for us, submit this. There will be a project here, an assignment that you could do in groups. Okay, so I'm saying that there will be multiple activities to which will amount about 70%. 70% thereabout, or perhaps 70%. for now, as I think that is where I'm leaning towards. But what I'm saying is that as we get towards the final end, we should be able to sum up all the things that we need, so that in the end you only have a small thing to just add up. Yes, of course, with the other units as well, there's always room for comparison. We see what happens in the other lessons as well. But allow me to indicate that let's just flow in. If I throw in a question, go do it. Yeah, I want to believe that it won't be a lot of work, but we will be busy in some way, in one way or the other, so that we are contributing to the bigger basket. Yeah, so let's work on that. Different tasks, assignments here and there, some group submissions, some small analysis you could do. Give me maybe a brief, so small tasks will eventually amount to something at the end of it all. So my assumption is that we shall all be there in the course of the discussions as we do concepts here and there, and then let's see what you submit at the end of it all. Okay, fine. So allow me to make some remarks on the first area. This book is available. Please have a look at it. You can even look at the areas of coverage, and then you can make sense out of it because of the learning. So let me give some brief remarks on a combination of chapter 1 and 2. That's what I've said, because 1 and 2 is basically setting the pace, understanding statistics, understanding data, understanding numbers, so that much as you can you operate in your own space, there's scope for you to collect data of some different sorts. You are a teacher. What data can you get from your students? What data can come from the registrar's office, from the management board? What statistics can you pick? But importantly, is there a way you can make sense out of that huge data set? And that's what we shall be talking about in statistics. You are doing research methods in some, I know you, that course is currently ongoing. You look at various aspects of research, and there's the relationship between statistics and research will come in when you're developing your methods and tools, because you will need to understand what kind of tool will fit my data. And I think that is where we'll struggle a little bit. Beauty with it is that they could have different data sets, will have different tools at their disposal for you. So you can pick from a pool, but the thing is, does it answer your question? So the reason I'm saying that is because there's a small component of the second chapter, which is the sampling approaches, because when you're doing sampling, ideally you are collecting data, and as you collect data, what approaches, sampling methods are at your disposal. So this is something that I know you have covered in totality in the research course. I may not emphasize a lot of it in this unit, but I'll just give a mention so that we have kind of a connection between the two. So please note that note of the interconnectedness between this unit and the others. The lecture notes, I think I'll post these at some point, but like I said, today we will set the pace, just introducing the units, understanding numbers, and where we fall in. Can you see my screen? I hope you do.
Yes, it's visible.
Very, very well. So this is maximize the screen. Yes. So these are the summarized versions of the many details you can pick from your standard reading from different sources. But I decided to start with these reflections, even as you think of similar questions in your area of specialty. Think of the current changes in the economic system, in the education system, as you look through the shift to the CBC and many other changes that are taking place, I'm sure questions are could be running around in your minds in terms of what does that imply for different variables? Is the quality of teaching and instruction going to remain? Will it improve? Will it decline? What happens to the enrollment numbers? What happens to financing by a government? Will there be a decline? What happens to congestion and infrastructure at the school? So those questions will always ponder around. And that's why you have research problem. Many other things you can think about. Number 3, when the government is continuously borrowing, what will become of the country's economic growth prospects? So think like that. Question 5, political question, who is likely to be elected in the next elections? So those things are real life questions that we do ask, but we will never get the answer right. And that is why we do courses such as this, to enable us even have an idea of where we are, to enable us determine the likely solution and answers to the same. And so you can be better, you can better actually respond to some of the questions which I believe you could be asking as part of your research problems. So this is why we say that we cannot really address some of these questions without data. And the data is what will guide the whole analysis. From the analysis, you can then determine, will the company's share profit decline or not? This is that is the power of statistics. For those in the legal profession, you can have as many questions in your mind. If you are in business, I'm sure you know that as well. If you're in this data science field, with the advent of AI, what will become of the existing tools that we have for analysis? For example, artificial intelligence is live and is here with us. Does that tell you something as a business analyst? So many questions will ponder. And I will not be going through each and every one of these points, but we just want to place our statistics course where it's supposed to be. As you collect data, you organize data, you present, you analyze, you make inferences, you interpret, you put it in a way in which you can communicate. Then that is basically that is what we will be dealing with in this unit. So can it make sense to you? Well, that's my take home for any statistics lesson, for anything like this. So does the numbers make sense? Can you interrogate critically? I mean, align critically, because many a times we only are concerned with the average. But is the average, is it what you're looking for? Are you able to go beyond the average? For those who have advanced knowledge in even data coding and perhaps writing programs, can you do an alternative program for generating a certain statistic? So this is what is called critical thinking and critical use of the data. Okay, yeah, so I hear from your own fields of expertise. Let me get 5 responses from the members. In what way is statistics useful in their fields? Yeah, just want to pose a question there. In what way is statistics useful in your field? We're going to pick 5 different people, but in different fields. I have seen Amisi. Then Amisi, your field is?
A teacher.
Oh, teacher.
Yes.
Correct. Proceed,
Should I go on? Oh,
Yes.
okay. Thank you, sir. In teaching, statistics plays a very big role when it comes to analyzing performance of your students. You have to apply statistics there where you will compare their performance over a given period of time. If you want to talk about student enrollment, statistics is involved. If you want to talk about the growth of the school, where you're looking at the population growth, I think there's just a lot of statistics everywhere in our school setup. Whether one is teaching maths, or not, I do teach maths, but I tend to believe whether you're teaching maths or not, there's just a lot of statistics, because in your subject, even if it is maybe Kiswahili or English, you would want to know what is the average performance class, and that is all statistics.
Okay, good, fine. Thank you, Amisi. Yeah. So in the education field, having known, one can actually use statistical tools. For example, when it comes to, you can develop a hypothesis and indicate that there has been no significant change in the performance of our students from last year to this year. So for us to know where there is a difference, one can, a non-statistician will just look at the difference. The performance was 9.84 mean last year. Today it's 8.3. So there is a decline. But for a statistician, that is good information, but you can improve it better. We can now ask, is there a significant difference in their performance? And that is why statistics now can come in. Thank you. Let's move on to Ellen. Which field?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, so mine is a similar case to Jane. And besides the analysis of the results and the performance annually, I also involve my learners because I teach business and entrepreneurship, where they are involved in coming up with a research project that involves a bit of some statistics. So I have to introduce them to the basic statistics in their research.
Okay, research, perfect. Oh, thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Jenny. Missy, Kedogo.
Thank you, Dr. Ari. So I'm also a teacher. I think we've talked a lot, but maybe as a business person, I can say that statistics is important because it helps one in decision making for a business, and also it is important for the planning of a business. For example, if you're selling clothes, you are able to know what is your stock. You take your stock every morning or every evening. So you are able to know the profits you get on a daily from that stock. And also you're able to understand how to plan the business for it to run smoothly and give you the maximum profits. Thank you.
Thank you. You've talked from I baptized you business perspective, business planning and forecasting. Is Silvano in a different field?
No, I'm still a teacher.
Okay. One comment.
Yeah, statistics is very important in any field. Specifically in education, it has a number of significance. If I may talk about being important in program evaluation. For example, right now we are talking of assessing the impact of curriculum changes. We need some statistics. We also need statistics in evaluating maybe the teaching methods, in evaluating technology and integration. We need statistics to be able to evaluate all those programs. There are so many things that
okay. Program evaluation.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Yes, for the rest of us who are following or not following the discussion, I'm actually in a way asking you, can you identify a problem area in your space that you could take it up going forward and see where statistics can have, whether it has a place in it at the end of it all. Just want to anyone from a different field other than teaching. Just want the last person. Is Stella? Yes.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
In my field, in telecoms, we use statistics to measure customer satisfaction, to measure uptake of products and services, to measure even performance in different regions. Yeah, those are just top of my mind, but we use it for various things that also aids in decision making.
Yeah, I've picked the issue of customer satisfaction across different areas. Perfect. Right. Yeah, okay. I wanted to close that discussion. Looks like Eugene is smiling. 1 second, Eugene.
Thank you, Daktari. I think for me also, being in the NGO world that promotes health, one of the ways that we use statistics just to analyze the epidemiological trends or the rates at the way maybe some of the participants we serve fall sick, and that helps to inform some of the interventions we come up with. For example, if I use the example of maybe if we see many cases of cholera in a certain place, then it can mean that we go to investigate and find out what could be the cause. And in some cases, some of the communities we serve, we find that they practice a lot of open defecation. So then we come up with interventions around that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think well said. I value the contributions from the 5 of us who've mentioned something. I agree with you entirely. And you could as well explore into other areas. So it makes a lot of sense to think about program evaluation. You think about general understanding of scenarios. Where is the place? I mean, how is the school performing relative to others? So basically, in terms of description, one can get that feel. How is the university performing in perhaps transition rates or rather, across different study years for students? Can you compare this transition rate between male and females, primary school? All these things you can reflect. So the discussion around the significance and place of stats can never be overemphasized. And that's why I think that particular section, I will skip it because you have actually some information that you can add to what I've already heard from the members of the floor. So comparison is very important. Can you compare the literacy levels from the recommended rates, for example? The good thing is that with statistics, it helps you in properly coming up with the hypothesis that you can go and test in the field. Yeah, so you could see that. Quality assurance and control, I think some of you already mentioned, monitoring, evaluation. So these ones you can see. So I wanted to emphasize the data visualization, especially from a qualitative perspective. With your different data that you do have, these visualizations that can come up, that you can do in various ways, helps you not only for understanding, but you can actually use that to generate some hypotheses. Because if you look at trends in different things, it can give you the picture out there. What has been the performance of the school relative to the other region, relative to the other schools in the region? One can actually, from the trends that they see, have an idea of what they would want to go and test in the field. So I will highlight two more things. That is this one. Much as statistics is fancy, those numbers to talk about is very good. It's always important to note that you will never rely on them. You should rely on them, yes, but we should be careful on the following items. Not in a bad way, but to be aware as a statistician that statistics are certain areas or demarcations or limitations that as a statistician or a researcher, you need to be alive to, so that as you propose your research methodology, you know that at the end of it all, for example, number A, when you say statistics, there will be some isolated cases. You are not likely to study everything. There will always be an outlier in the mix. You collect data from the field, you will always find that there's an extreme position in the field. So what happens, what do you do with that outlier? So in most cases, much as we are aggregating things, we have to be aware that there will be such kind of extreme situations. The main assumption that we make in stat is about homogeneity, that at some point you would expect that we are the same in one way or the other. The things you collect, the variables will behave in the same way. And that can be an area that as a good researcher, you could propose alternative methods that can take into account heterogeneous nature of the population that you're dealing with. When we say some of us, we teach literature, we teach Kiswahili, we are in, some of us are theologians and the rest. So statistics tend to discriminate us. So that is a belief out there, but it may not necessarily be true. That statistics is numbers. Yes, we agree it's numbers. But the question is, as a researcher, how can you use the numbers because they are factual and relate to your other qualitative aspects so that it can make more sense? The most powerful for me is number D. There's a difference between what is called correlation and causation. Correlation and causality, if you want to call it like that. The two are different in their own way. We'll look at this at some point towards the end. When we say correlation, we are relating variables. Can we associate wage earnings to level of education, for example? That's why I've given in the last bullet here, if you have education, does education affect your wages? So if you look at those two variables, it is very easy to say, indeed, education will influence your wage. It's a very strong assumption. Statistics will tell you they are related, but it will not tell you that education causes wages. And that is the difference. When you do regression, the correlation in the last chapter, we'll answer this question properly, because we have what is called confounding factors, some other factors that can influence the relationship, which you will think that it is education that is causing wages, but technically it may not be. It could be because of something else. So it could be misleading if misinterpreted, in other words. Think about that example in education and wages. Much as correlation will tell you more educated people tend to earn more, and that is the assumption. The more educated people are, well, the higher the wages they are going to earn. And that is correlation. But it is not necessarily true that education causes wage. For example, there could be some factors that could be intermediaries. You could have had education because one, because of proximity to a learning institution. So think about someone who just walks to school every day. Think of another person who must walk 40 kilometers to get to school. So that distance variable is one that can now explain wage. That it's because you are closer to school, you can easily access education, and so wage. Another person would say because of your parents' education. because your parents are educated or your guardian is educated, it is very likely that the same is going to afford education, so he can give you education. And in the end, your earnings will be better. So this question of causality is a thorn issue that needs to be interrogated deeper beyond the ordinary statistics. And I think for my first session, this will be an important thing for you to take note of. The other things is they're standard. We have to be aware that we look at the data, we look at the fact that statistics is all about the average position. It's not about you are different from me. It looks at the average. When we say Kenyans are hardworking, that is, it could be true, but it's not true. You will always find the extremes. And that is a thing about statistics. It puts us almost in a similar footing. And so we work together. The last one is about now your misinterpretation, misuse of data. When we are not knowledgeable enough to handle different types of data set, we can interpret data in a very different way to bring totally different meaning. So if I'm collecting qualitative data and you interpret it the way you interpret quantitative data, that is a misuse of data. And so it might lead you to wrong conclusions at the end of it all. It is one thing that we do emphasize a lot as researchers: know when and how to use the data so that you use it correctly. Good. Allow me to ask some general questions. Population versus sample. We are research, we understand research. I'm going to just throw in some questions to members of the floor. Differences between population and sample. Let's have other people randomly. Just going to go to the last page. Yes, let me pick names. Badia, Osanya, yeah, any one of them. Maureen.
Can I answer?
All right, who is on call? Yes.
Population.
Okay, looks like we are lost you.
To the group of a study. Population?
Yes.
Refers to the group, entire group.
Okay.
Of the subjects of the study. Yeah.
Okay.
While a sample is a subset.
Yes. So I'm talking about now the terms and concepts that we use in statistics for that, so that we can, as we talk about the data, we are left to various concepts and ideas that will shape our discussion around that. So sampling, as we will be discussing in chapter 2, somehow is an important integral part of what we're dealing with, because the data will come from somewhere. It may not be from the population because of many resource constraints and the rest. That's why we do the sampling. So think of that. Just to preempt one more person before I move to the main agenda for where I really wanted the discussion to center today, this concept of inferential statistics, one person to take it up. Inferential statistics. Just want to see whether we have knowledge prior, inferential. Let me go with the guy starting with F, Lawrence, Faith, Festus.
Sorry.
Lawrence, Faith, Festus, one of them. Florence, Faith, Festus? Are they absent? Looks like.
They are not absent.
Oh, yes.
American.
Faith.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, let's
Yes.
hear from Faith. Yes.
Advice to
So
make a conclusion.
inferential, I
Mhm.
can just say it is to infer or compare maybe data samples or larger samples with others or with another sample. I don't know whether I am just
You are-
trying.
Yes, thank you. By Faith, you are right. Let's see. Another who wants to improve now. Thank you, Faith.
To infer is to
Okay,
make a
Cindy.
conclusion.
Cindy.
Doctor,
Yes, who is speaking?
this is Chris.
Okay, Chris, I'll ask you descriptives. Let's ask Cindy to tie up the inferential.
Yeah, so I'm just trying as well. So I'm thinking inferential statistics is where after you've taken a sample from a population and then you've collected data, it's now the act of drawing conclusions based on the larger group that you're studying.
Okay, yeah. Oh, thank you, Cindy. And is that important process in your view?
Pardon?
Is it an important task or process to compare the sample to the population numbers?
Yes, it is, because it will help you get the predictions of whatever the results of whatever you're studying about, you're researching about.
Okay, good, fine. Thank you.
Yeah.
So let me, so that I don't come there, to conclude, if you do the inferential as rightly put by the two speakers, you're trying to get a representative information, or rather information that is representative of this population. That's why we do this thing. So as you get numbers from the sample, the assumption is that those numbers will represent the population dynamics. Let me hear from Chris on descriptives, and then I will take you back to the measurements of data. Okay, Chris, any comment?
Yes, Doctor. You want me to
Yes.
comment on
Descriptives.
descriptives from the word describe? Maybe after drawing the conclusion, you're able to describe the set of the data that you've gotten. So basically, I meant to understand that this is basically making a summary and describing the data that you've gotten from a particular sample or set of samples gotten from a particular population. Thank you.
Fine, thank you. I think Caroline Dunge wants to agree with you.
Yes, I am agreeing with him, but adding to it by saying we may want to use the graphs, the tables, just to give a clearer picture of the data that is collected and how it's being interpreted.
Perfect. Now, thank you. I think that is well covered. That's well covered. So you are simply summarizing, organizing, and then offering some summary to your audience in a manner in which they are going to pick the main characteristics of the data. That is descriptive. Let me just project the two slides here, and then I now introduce or make comment about the key concepts and terminologies in statistics. Then we flow in there. Okay. So this is where we are.
Before we go on, can I just
Daktari,
ask
I
something?
did a
Oh, yeah.
question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I think let's hear from Othello first, and then the question. Othello.
Okay, on the question of descriptive, we say that is to make it easier for us to make decision, and for whatever we have covered in research to be clearly communicated, and basically is for decision making. That's what I wanted to add there.
Oh, very good for decision. True. So the key thing is that as you package, summarize the information, you want to have a narrative that basically gives you an average position of the data set. It can be in form of what someone said, visual or graphs, you can generate a common number that will put those numbers together, whether it is statistic, whether it's an average or the other, and that is communicated for purpose of just for policy, as you've said, Othello. Good thought. There was a question from somebody.
Yes, and I think from what you have said,
yes,
I've gotten the answer, because I was to ask if descriptive statistics involve the measure of central tendency, the measures of dispersion, and also
yes,
the measure of shapes. So I think you have answered that.
correct, perfect. So nice. So so in summary, if you are to have a very brief narrative of what the first field of statistics cover, then it is about organization and putting the data in a summary format and in a convenient way so that we can make sense out of it. What that means is that when you do your questionnaire, when you collect data, even, for example, from a survey or even a closed or open-ended questionnaire, the questions or the answers or responses come in a very disorganized manner in most cases. So you will have all manner of answers. You will also have missing data because not all questions will be answered. So in a nutshell, as you collect the data, it is upon the researcher to now filter, to clean it so that the data can now make sense. For example, you could combine constructs which seem to be similar. You could look at outliers. For example, like I told you, an outlier is an extreme case. So if for example, your data, your population or your sample had 104 people, those who responded, and then 2 of these people gave you very different answer to a certain question. For example, what is your average income? They tell you $100,000, but the rest of us lie within a certain range. So how do you deal with that extreme value? So it's part of the data cleaning processes which will go in, because if you don't deal with it, it is going to alter your conclusions, your narrative. So descriptive is basically presenting the data in a manner in which people can conveniently make sense out of the data. I think that is in order. And I have provided some examples in that slide number 13. On the other hand, to just bring home the point of inferential, because we shall be operating in both spheres for this unit. For inferential stats, then the question of sampling is important to be considered, that we have something called a sample statistic, and we have something called population parameter. So in statistical terms, when you look at the average age for the entire population, so we call it a population parameter. So the concept of parameter is linked to the population. When you now compute the average from the sample, then that becomes a sample statistic. So there's a concept of a statistic versus parameter. They could be referring to the same variable, such as age, temperature, and the rest, but they are referring to sample and population respectively. So as we shift from that particular discussion, please note that these are some important concepts for you to research and look around. I'm just providing a list of the concepts. Some of these concepts are very familiar. Others, we will come across them as we go along. I have put many things in one slide. We are not going to go into definitions and understand each of them. I've brought this for you so that as we go along throughout this unit, if I mention something that is, for example, population bias, we will have understood where it comes from. Just going to have a round reading for each of them. We have a population, we have sample, we have a variable. Variable is very important. What is a variable in the first place? Okay, so that unit of analysis is your variable. Okay, and you know them. We have the data, which is now the actual observations. We have already looked at descriptive versus inferential. I have already mentioned population parameter vis-a-vis sample statistic. These ones, they are taken together. They are looked at together. The whole idea of a hypothesis, what it is, and the procedure for performing hypothesis testing. Concept-wise, we also have what is very popular concept in statistics. By the time we finish this unit, if we've not grasped the importance of the p-value, then the statistics might not be complete. Probability value, it is very important for us to note. We will discuss and elaborate that when we come to hypothesis testing. Probability and probability distribution, that is the third moment of any particular data set, the third moment, skewness, kurtosis, and the like. So when you combine those two, it helps you to describe the distribution of the data. I move to the next column there. We will mention at some point what parametric and non-parametric statistics are when it comes to hypothesis testing. And by the way, this is very important for us in our so-called, we are qualitative, we are quant, because there are procedures for performing certain things in statistics which are more in line to the parametric field. We will explain what that means. For example, if you collect data on incomes for 1,500 people, they tell you the average incomes for the day, for the month. So there's every possibility that when you put that data, the 1,500 data points, it is likely to fit a normal curve or a normal distribution. So such analysis will now take the parametric field. And I'm just giving an example that parametric test statistics is more aligned to the normal distribution, the bell-shaped kind of. But if your data set is not aligned to the normal distribution, then you will operate in the field of non-parametric. This is a majority of most of us in qualitative. You have only very few data points, but you want to compute a statistic and compare with the population. So you cannot use parametric approaches, use the non-parametric. I'll try as much as possible to position that when that discussion comes. Concepts in statistics are normality and the concept of central limit theorem, which means that as you increase sample size, this is what it means. As the sample size increases, then the observations tend towards getting to normal distribution. That is the central limit theorem. And so in sampling, as you go to the field, what method did you use to determine the sample size? So if you say you had targeted 200 people, and then from the 200 target number of individuals, 150 of them responded. Are we safe enough to say that your data responses fit a normal distribution? That is what the central limit theorem. But if you collect data from 20 people, we will question that. It means that your conclusions will not be representative. And so it violates the central limit theorem. So it might be a good concept to note, even as you develop your research ideas and methodologies later on. We'll talk about confidence intervals in hypothesis testing. I've talked about outlier. There's a concept of sampling bias. Someone has said that in the inferential statistics, you are comparing the sample statistic with the population parameter. Yeah, so that when you say the average age of a Form 4 graduate is 13 years, for example. So that is a population figure, which perhaps could have come from total aggregates for the country and the rest. But you can now say in the county of Nairobi, if I pick 3-4 schools, I compute the average age for their Form 4 graduates. Is it significantly different from 10, which you believe is the population value? So if there is variation, then we have what we call a sampling bias along the way. We'll elaborate type 1 and type 2 errors in hypothesis. And then all the other things are about correlation, regression, and analysis of variance and skewness, kurtosis. We will talk about concepts. So I'm asking of you, as we try to position ourselves in statistics, the concepts to be aware of, because they will be flowing through the unit. Any comments from any one of us? Any questions? Yes.
Dr. Can I just ask a question? Okay, somebody has raised their hand there.
Oh,
Was
okay.
that me? Was that me?
Oh, Cindy, is your hand up? Cindy's hand seems not to be up, although it is up. Othello, please. Oh,
Pardon?
yes. Yes, Cindy, you want to say something?
Yeah, mine was a question.
Correct.
I wanted to ask, we are talking about a sample
Yes.
where you take a sample from a population, and then you use the data collected to draw conclusions and predictions.
Correct.
So my question is, how accurate are the predictions based on the sample that you picked, considering that we have the errors when you're picking the samples and also when you're collecting the data. So how accurate are the predictions and conclusions based on a particular sample?
How accurate and how reliable are those estimates? Yeah, this is where statistics really comes into to answer that question. First things first, we must first of all ensure that you've done due diligence to ensure that your sampling procedure is accurate, in the sense that if it is sampling, the sampling method that you use, if it is snowballing, for example, how can we rely on the snowballing approach for the nature of the question you have? So I'll draw you back to the question of sampling. Did you collect a representative sample? Number two, how large is the sample? How large is your sample? Noting, of course, that you are dealing with a certain research question. So to me, that's the starting point. I know for qualitative data at times, you may not necessarily go to as large samples as you can think if you are doing maybe focused group discussions. I know from qualitative qualitative research, when you have a focus group discussion between 7 to 15 people, that can be a good representation of the ideas. But the question is, what is the composition of these 9? That is another question. If you are in a quantitative study, we care a lot about the number. If you look at the basic theory in statistics, much as they say n should be at least 30, but the principle is that n should be large enough. That is what it is. But it's upon the researcher to interpret what is this thing called large enough. If resources do allow, increase the sample size. So in the first place, take care of the sampling issues and any errors that you're likely to make in the course of collecting the data. So the data collection methods, assume they are taken care of. Then you now go beyond the analysis and say, do we have statistical procedures to validate your results? To validate your results. And so in my view, every analysis tool offers you statistical procedure to determine whether your results can be valid or not. Let me not go into details with that statement, because It depends on your data, that you, the nature of the question, your research question you're having. First of all, have you checked the validity of your tool? If it's a questionnaire, does it meet the threshold? And then beyond that, you could as well now look at there are things we sometimes there are things we call in research sensitivity analysis. For example, you've done your research, you've used method 1. And if there were 3 alternative ways of doing your research, you can do due diligence and say, if I did method 2 on the same data, are my results consistent? That can be an aspect that you can look at, so that you're saying that because of the consistency in terms of the approaches, then I can rely on my results and the focus that will come at the end of it. That is one way of looking at it. But I believe there are each and every tool offers you ways in which you can have checks and balances in everything. So that's why in research, we have what is called diagnostic checks. You diagnose at various levels. You diagnose your tool. There's a questionnaire. Does it meet the threshold? You diagnose the results that you've gotten. Does it meet the assumptions? Does it meet the assumptions for the method you're using? Then those checks will now assure you of reliable estimates and results at the end of it all. Then I want to respond to that in the general framework in that way. Good. So let me take you to the last section, the last activity, or what I intended to introduce you today to, the issue of data. This animal called data. When you go to the field, as you can see, this slide is talking about population and sample. You've done your population demarcation, you've demarcated the target, you have a sample of 150 teachers you want to target, you've gone to the field using whichever method that you know. Then the question that will arise is, what data have you brought for analysis? Assuming let's talk about education versus wage. Your hypothesis is, does education affect wage? Is there a relationship between education level and the wage earnings? That's a very valid question. But the question is, you've gone to the field, you have a questionnaire, you've picked so many data variables from the field. And we want to now interrogate the type of data you've picked. Does it fit, or does it fit a certain analytical tool? So in statistics, we start there. Classify your data first. After classifying your data, then from there you can now say, this data which I've picked, you can analyze it this way. So I'm picking I want to pick 3 people from the group randomly. So I've already said that from next week, I'll be referring you to the portal, because this is the first week. I'll be asking you to go to the portal, do a question or so, and respond to it. So I'm preparing you in advance, so that as we have the discussions, how sure am I that you are there? So I'll be referring you to 1 or 2 questions as we look through some of the concepts. Today we are setting the pace. Looking at the last names in my group here, I'm seeing Aki, Terry, Steve, and Steve. Yeah. Let's start from Steve, go to Terry and Gaki. Any one of them to respond to the question of any sampling technique that you can apply to answer the question of education wage. Assuming that you have identified your population, you want to understand whether education affects wage or influences wage. You have a tool, which is a questionnaire, or you have an interview guide, whichever way of looking at it, but you want to go to the field. What methods exist for you to get a data set? This is more of research. Either Steve, Terry, or Gaki. One person. Tuanze na Steve, kama yuko.
Stratified sampling.
Okay, all right. Stratified. Okay. Anything from Terry?
Yes, stratified sampling method.
Come again?
Whereby you can subdivide the population. Hello?
Yes, proceed. Okay, there's a lot of noise, background noise. Yeah.
I'm also suggesting that. Okay, are you able to hear me?
All right, let's hear from you again.
Okay, I'm also saying that the best method will be the stratified sampling method, whereby the population given can be subdivided into groups. That is, they can be subdivided into strata.
Okay. All right.
Based on relevant characteristics such as the education level.
Okay. Perfect. Good. Thank you, Terry. Paul, as the last speaker on that question.
Simple random sampling where every individual can have a chance to respond.
Okay. Okay. So if you are to administer that one using that approach, what that means is
selecting respondents random.
At random. Okay.
Yeah.
So all right, simple. So you say I'm going to walk through this street, and I just randomly issue questionnaires. Okay, fine. So the way that section is what I know you've covered in your research, and so it's my expectations that let me not cross over the research aspects, but find ways in which that matches into our statistics, so that we have what is called the probability sampling techniques, and then you have the non-random sampling techniques. Random and non-random, depending on the research question. But that's not the point. The point I just wanted now to highlight is this one on data, as that will be the last activity for the day. We'll not finish it, but I will just, it's good to talk about data. And then we talk about the structure discussion, then we will be good to go. Sorry, I should be sharing my screen. There we go. So as you go to collect data on the question that I've posed, does education affect wage? We can ask in our questionnaire very many questions. Think about, indicate for us your age, gender, the type of school you teach, or the work, your profession. Are you a lawyer? Are you what? How do you rate this and this? So you can ask different questions to your respondents in the hope that the data you collect will be useful to answer the question we at hand. So think of data as categorized into different, or rather structured in different ways. As you look at what is called numeric data versus categorical data, then I have not brought in what is called quantitative or quant. That is a bigger picture. So data is basically either numeric or categorical. So even as you design your questionnaire, it is good to have a mixture of both. So that you have a variety of statistical procedures to talk about the data itself. So in the category of numerical data, it can either be discrete or continuous. Discrete implying that it takes whole numbers. Okay, so these are what we call the counted items, or the count data. But any data that is in the continuous category implies that it can take on any value, including fractions and decimals. Your grade point average, your GPA, your income, even though it could be in dollars, it can still be converted into shillings, and you have your decimals and the rest. We have the categorical data on the other hand. So think of marital status, think of the yes/no questions. Someone asked, say, talked about the data which is for perceptions, or rather customer satisfaction. So asking questions of different varieties in your questionnaire tool is helpful because it informs you that by the time you collect that data, you will use it for you'll use it in different contexts. So that is the first classification. But the true actual classification is this one. The measurement levels, we have the lowest to the highest level. So if you collect data, can you place that data in the right category? Because it will tell you also how you're going to describe and how you're going to perform inferences about the data set. So the lowest scale of measurement is nominal data, of course, nominal scale. So with the nominal scale, it is a categorical data set, but there's no order of importance. It doesn't give you it doesn't tell you that one is better than the other. So that is important, and it's a qualitative variable because you can ask them, which county do you come from? What is your set your gender, which is your race, and the rest. So there's no better country than the other. There's no better race than the other. So that is nominal. We call it the lowest level. Yes, please.
Will you send these notes? Sorry, I've already sent them.
No, I'll post after the class.
Okay.
So that I don't have people reading different things. I'll be putting them at the end of the class. I'll just post them there.
Thank you.
I think that is guided. So I'm saying that as you develop your questionnaire, your tool for data collection, understand the data that you're dealing with. When you record the gender for your students, male, female, boy, girl, what does that tell you? It will tell you that this nominal level, you cannot get the average because there's no average for gender. There's no average for race. But you can do certain other statistics that from this data, which is nominal. For example, you can do proportions. You can now look at percentage. You ask, what is the proportion of the male students in the entire class? So 50%, 20%, that now can make sense statistically speaking. So secondly, you can also do the mode. What is the common or the highest number of, the most appearing gender, for example, the class. So it tells you that with the data that you have, which is nominal, it is already taking you to a certain direction. So when you come to hypothesis testing and regression, I will also guide you and tell you, how do you place nominal data in a regression model? Where do you place this one is in correlation? That will be the questions we shall be doing at the last stage. Let's move now to what is called ordinal data. This is now the second level of measurement because it is still categories, but those categories have some meaning. We are attaching a meaning to a category. For example, indicate for us your level of satisfaction. For those who are doing customer satisfaction surveys, on a scale of 1 to 5, rate the quality of our services, where 1 represents lowest, 5 is very satisfied. You see, it's order, it is categories, but you have attached some meaning to those numbers that they will give. What is the socioeconomic status in the community? Lower class, middle class, upper class in the society. What is your education level or your highest level of education? because it gave something different than just saying primary, secondary, whatever. So these are ordinal data sets, which are also very important for analysis. It gives you alternative ways of now getting the summary statistics. You can, for example, you can look at the median, you can look at the range, you can even draw some bar graphs. So it tells you that you are taken to a certain direction of analysis. So for me, this slide is powerful because without understanding the data you're dealing with, you will go the wrong way of analysis. From the wrong analysis approach, you come up with wrong conclusions. From the wrong conclusions, you misadvise your boss, and that is when you get things wrong. So second is the ordinal data. The third one is the interval data. So for interval data set, we are saying that there is some equal spacing between the observations. So I know as I move from one to the second one, the distance is the same irrespective. Think about if you're looking at maybe the age in years without necessarily looking at the in-betweens. Okay. If you look at maybe the number of people, it's either 2, 3, or 5, So if it's temperature or rounded to all numbers, 24, 35, like that. So there's some equal spacing, and which helps you now which can help you now to give meaning to the various data points. Think about your IQ or your test scores you score in different stages, all that. So for these kinds of interval data, it means that you are now going to fully quantitative. So you can compute an average, you can do standard deviations, you can do graphs, histograms, you can now do parametrics, all these things. So you can now notice that understanding that you have interval data guides you even on the hypothesis testing procedure to use. For example, you can now do an analysis of variance, ANOVA, and the like, but you cannot do in the other, like that. So the highest level of measurement is what is called the ratio data, or rather the ratio scale. So this one is very similar to the interval, very similar in every way. So the only thing is that it includes everything, including the zero. So all the fractions, decimal, all that, including the zero. So this one now is the bigger picture of quantitative. And that's why it's called it's referred to as the highest level of measurement, including the zero, which zero in some other quarters may not make sense, but in statistics, it does. So what you've said is, in a nutshell, much as you're saying my data is qualitative, but is it qualitative in what sense? Purely nominal or ordinal? Are you quantitative? If it's quantitative, in what case? So think of this as we propose in your fields of specialization. Let's in my last questions, let's look at some cases, and I'm going to maybe ask one person to say something. From the legal profession, if you look at court cases, for example, suppose you list the top 3 convictions in terms of crimes. You go to the records, you find the convictions that have been happening. You want to record the type of cases that are reported in a certain institution, for example, or those that are prosecuted. So types of cases or types of crimes that offenders do bring on board. Which data scale is that? Yes. I'm throwing in my last questions. Next week, it will be everyone to answer. So, Josephine.
am just trying.
Yes.
I'll categorize them under ordinal data because they're giving the ranks. If it is petty offenders, then if it is highly criminal cases, so they give the ranks.
All right. Fine. Okay. Is there another person with a different view? Or a supporter of Josephine? Othello, I think I'm seeing Othello's hand is up. Oh, or it's been up forever, for the
No,
longest.
I think let me just I think I just forgot to put it down, but let me just say something. If it's just NIMI, we will say if it is just NIMI of different crimes, we will say we will look at it's close to ordinal, but we can say nominal. I can say nominal.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Now, so thank you, Josephine and Othello. I think that is good. Do you whether you are speaking of nominal or ordinal, I now refer you to where we began from. What is the problem you are addressing? Okay. What is your problem in your research? Is it that there are many types of cases? Is it that the courts have been recording very serious cases of late? So the question you're asking, do you just want to understand, determine the cases perhaps? So if that is your storyline, you can treat that data set at level as nominal at that level, because basically you are just informing us that this is what exists. Secondly, the same data set, if used differently now, you can as well look at it and say, well, from the court system, well, not all cases are prosecuted the same way. And so that's why even they have classes of prisons. Well, you can then ask what factors will determine, or rather what influences individuals' appetite to performing very serious crimes, So in that case, both of you are right. You can look at it from different perspectives. So I'm not saying in a nutshell that everything is boxed to one area. The understanding is that your data set can fall in whichever category, depending on how you want to use that data set. Particularly the ratio and the interval, there could be some overlaps. But in a nutshell, the way of analysis is almost similar. Yes, ordinal data, I think, Ruth, you've rightly put it there, which I think we are in agreement with you. So this section is not complete in terms of the discussion for this particular session that we have opened. Allow me to do a wrap-up and ask ourselves, for this introductory class session, of course, we've talked about this and that. Yes.
Actually, allow me to ask a question we can go home with if you cannot
Yes.
answer here. Okay,
Yes.
my question is, statisticians and researchers tend to look at something that is maybe we can say is usual. They tend to avoid the unusual and outrageous. For example, in our very early part of the class, we were talking about education level. The more educated people are, the higher the person is likely to earn in their wages. But you see, statistics tend to hide some other underlying factors which can make somebody to be having, the person can just be rich. Maybe this is a drug trafficker. This guy is a drug, the drug trafficker, or he got money from dubious means, probably from getting tender because he has some contacts in government in high places, and maybe he's just a Form 1 person, or he's never reached to Form 1, or he's just a dropout from pre-secondary school, something like that. This person has become rich. Researchers tend to avoid those people. Why is that?
I want a response from the team. I led it this time around, and then I can give my submissions. Let's have someone to give their perspectives to the same. Is it Cindy? Is it Cindy or Liz or Madiang? One of those. Give their submissions.
Othello's question confuses me, so I'll pass.
You pass. That's Madiang.
Yes, Doctor.
Yeah, okay. Othello's question is confusing. Thank you, Juliana. You will unconfuse Madiang first, or you will respond.
Let me try and respond by maybe what we have talked about, the outliers. So
Okay.
maybe I'd say that's an outlier, like they're not really within our boundaries, so they're out.
So we get them out.
Yeah.
So in other words, you're in agreement with the Othello's view that in statistics we hide certain things.
Yeah, the outliers.
Okay, all right. Food for thought. Cindy, make your last comments. Anything from your side regarding?
But this Madiang again.
Well done, Madiang.
Yeah, so now I've reflected upon it. And you remember the first time you asked the question about our specific areas of labor, what we do,
yes,
and how we do use statistics.
Correct.
The bottom line of the way we guys use it is data for decision making. We trust the data and the analysis of the same so much that we commit lots of resources based on the analysis of the data, which is what I'll define as statistics. So I would say that through the trust that we have, we are so sure that statistics does not hide some stuff. And what the last lady has talked about, outliers, I think sometimes they are very negligible. And we really, really, really trust the outcome of the statistics. So that when now we go and somebody would say the rubber meets the road, we are able to deal with anything else that was considered an outlier. My take, and I may be wrong. Over to you.
Thank you. Fine. In my submissions, then let me then summarize. I value your contributions, everyone. When they say statistics hides certain things, and I'm happy you brought in examples there on incomes and outliers and tenders and the like. Well, while that is the case, we will go back and ask ourselves, question one, are there statistical procedures and techniques for analysis in the presence of outliers? That is the first question. The first question. And it can only happen so if you spot some spikes in your data. 2, 3, 4 people in there, which are completely off to the extent that it raises some arouses the researchers' knowledge and curiosity to just ask, could it be something that is common elsewhere? One way is to think of, are there methods of analysis in the presence of outliers? That is now on the final end. But ideally, statistics on the face value, when you are cleaning data, at times you could do that. But it is okay because of the issue of sampling that we've spoken about. If you really did proper sampling, and that's why that sampling is important and properly done, how rare or how frequent or to what extent are you observing these outliers? Is it every time? Once off? One person in a million? There, much as the presence of outliers are there, it will, if you continue with analysis with the same outliers, it distorts the average picture. So that is why statisticians would rather not include that outlier in the process because they will consider this as a special case in the whole result. And the most unfortunate thing is when you are dealing with primary data collection, that is, the question is, as you collect that data, at times you can also question, could this person have filled the wrong value? Could this person have put an extra 0, 30,000 rather than 3,000? So questions around also measurements and errors still ponder, because you will not be there at the analysis stage to verify whether this entry is really valid or not. And in the process, statisticians would be safe taking it out from the analysis. Condition is that, that's why the condition is that, is your sample large enough to the extent that without one observation, your conclusions will still be consistent and reliable. It's an art, it's not a science. That's why we say statistics is an art. Data collection analysis is an art. It's something we learn right from the collection stage, formulation to analysis. So all these things will be put in the picture as you clean the data, as you code and the rest. So in my view, those are my submissions with regard. Yes, please, Chris.
Please just repeat what you've said. What is that you're calling an art and not a science?
It is the whole aspect of statistical analysis, or rather data research, this whole process of research.
Now the question is,
yes,
doesn't it require empirical verification? And if it does, then what does that become?
Both of them, but you see that what the art, I'm not discarding the science bit. Maybe I should clarify that. I'm not totally ignorant of the scientific process, but you see the art comes in from the experience. Maybe that was what I should have put it rightly. That from your experience, from your knowledge, how do you handle that? How is research, or how is outliers treated out there from experience and also from evidence? Please know that the scientific process is completely taken care of, because you know that statistics is a science. That one is a fact. But there's an art towards it. How do you go about through the process? Turning the corners, moving around up to the end. I think perhaps the idea of art, not a science, should not be the case. You shouldn't project it entirely like that. Yeah, but I hope you've gotten my point, Chris.
Yes, I've gotten it, Doctor.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Then allow me, we end here with your permission. Can I have a mover of the session to end if there are no further questions? Is there any questions though? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No question. Now, a mover that we end the session for this evening here. Chris has proposed.
Just a question, Dr. Ray. Are we going to get these notes?
In fact, as soon as possible. I'm posting them right now.
Thank you.
Right.
The lecturer will post the notes on the portal. The link is available. All that.
Everything is
All
there.
right.
Dr. When it's posted on the portal, that means that we'll not access them because you don't have access to our units yet. Can it also be posted on the WhatsApp group?
No, that's not true. I have said this 110 times that the registration in Daystar student portal has nothing to do with our student portal online. Didn't you find yourself online? How did you get yourself to find that you have a course online? We did register manually.
The units are not yet updated on the Do Online.
No. You are probably the only one, Taslin. My people here are already seeing them on the dashboard.
We are many. We are many actually. From
Taslin.
How many people?
Okay, Taslin, can I just say something? Eh? Taslin, probably you go to student portal and then you will be able to enter all those classes there on student portal. But apart from our dual
I've already
online.
done that, sir. I've already done that.
So it just means that you have not been enrolled in that class. It doesn't mean that you are not there. Units are there. We have enrolled. Some of you already are here.
I can see a message on WhatsApp that apart from Taslin, who else is missing the units?
Yeah.
Apart from
So Taslin, don't be speaking for everybody. Say, I'm not enrolled. Then we know you, we single out you. And then we enroll you. It means you're not enrolled in that.
Okay.
And as we're doing.
It's me and 4 others as at now.
No, let them talk for themselves because everybody has an individual admission number so that we can be able to enroll.
Okay.
It is very individual. So you have to have your admission number. That's the only thing. You have to have your student what?